Hi, my name is Hannah, and today we're interviewing Thomas Lee. Born and raised in Hong Kong, Thomas is the chairman of an accounting and consulting group in Hong Kong. Today he gives us his view, business and economic trends as the curve flattens and we emerge into a post-pandemic world.
This podcast channel is about you, successful international entrepreneurs, successful expats, successful investors. Sponsored by HCJ.tax.
Good morning, Thomas. Thank you for your time this morning. Hope everything is all right in Hong Kong. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Thomas Lee. I'm the chairman of this group of professional services, including accounting, tax, auditing, company secretarial.
All right.
And I'm based in Hong Kong and with offices in mainland China and Macau.
Okay, fantastic. So for those on the outside, all we have are snippets in the mainstream media, which, to be honest, sometimes doesn't paint the best picture of what's going on in Hong Kong and China. So from your experience, you're there. What is happening on the ground in terms of business?
In terms of business, because Hong Kong depends a lot of China for business, and there are a lot of cross-border operations and transactions, especially with respect to our business. We have a lot of Chinese clients, and those clients who come to Hong Kong as a springboard to go into other countries as well. And there are also a lot of Chinese companies which want to be listed outside of China instead of on the Asia market. So they come either to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange or go to the US stock market. And that has created difficulty by reason of the recent shutdown of the transport between Hong Kong and mainland China. There are still flights between Hong Kong and mainland, but most of these flights have been cut down. So the reasons, most recently, the carrying capacity of Cathay Pacific and Cathay Dragon has been down to only around 4% of the average in the past few years. And there is only one gateway available between Hong Kong and mainland now. And that creates a lot of difficulty, especially anyone who is not a Hong Kong resident would not be allowed to come into Hong Kong at this moment. And anyone, whether you are a Hong Kong resident or not, if you come into Hong Kong, you need to be quarantined for 14 days. So that creates a lot of business difficulty in terms of working together, because before COVID-19 happened, we travel almost every day across the border to mainland, and there are a lot of mainland businessmen coming into the office to discuss and talk about opportunities whatsoever. And so we have been using Zoom meetings almost every day now, because Zoom seems to be a very useful tool for us to conduct business over the internet with whosoever and with a lot of participants joining. But this is certainly not as good as a meeting in a conference room, especially if there are price-sensitive information in the stock market, or which they are confidential information to be shared. And there are a lot of complaints that Zoom at this moment is not 100% secure in terms of information. And yes, a couple of days ago, we talked about web seminar, and some speaker in China have concern well, people may record the webinar and they have concern. But for others, they may not be concerned, but well, certainly there will be concern one way or the other. So that's the current situation in Hong Kong, especially. So we have endured more than 9 months suffering since the social unrest, which started last June, and the current COVID-19. And so I have not been traveling anywhere since mid-January, coming back from China. Normally, I travel to China once a week at least, to different places and to my office across the border in Shenzhen. So we have not been able to work very closely with my team, and unfortunately, we have a mainland team, and they will be able to support whatever is required. For example, attending stock take or going into client office, because traveling within China is completely open starting from today, including Wuhan. Wuhan people are allowed to travel if on their mobile phone there is an app and which shows green. If it is green, that means you are healthy. You are allowed to board any public transport. If you are yellow, then you need to be quarantined. And if it shows a red sign, then you can't travel anywhere. And well, believe it or not, I think the virus has been more or less contained in China, even though there are invisible carriers all around. But in Hong Kong, we still suffer from import of those cases from other countries. And according to the report this morning, we have around 960 confirmed cases. And half of those who suffer and confirm that they have COVID-19 have travel record. So they went outside of Hong Kong and come back and carry back the virus. That's the current situation. And like it or not, well, life has changed a lot. And so the use of Zoom meeting, telephone, and other means of communication will become very popular. And in our office, we started to think about using cloud as the main storage with backup in the office, just in case we have to evacuate from the office because we have a confirmed case. And that is something we have to plan for, and which will help us and will change our working behavior in future. So in future, people, well, we may not need a very big office in future, and we may not need many conference rooms, because whenever we have a meeting, then we can do it via internet, and that will change a lot. And I think is a good sign, because we will be forced to move ahead. Instead of relying on office and people coming into office daily. But I received some complaint that they are not that they don't want to be, but they are not as efficient if they work from home. Because if you work from home, you may have a child, a baby crying, and then you have to teach your children to study because the children cannot go to school. And there are internet classes. And then the child will come to you, Mom, I need to understand this, I don't understand, etc. Well, I think it's the same everywhere. I think it's the same in Singapore as well, because Hong Kong and Singapore, we are moving hand in hand in what we are doing. And in Singapore, now you have a lockdown. And luckily, we still don't have a lockdown in Hong Kong. But still not quite as expected. because well, a lot of comments coming from the people here. The government should rent many of those hotels, especially smaller hotels, to quarantine those arriving from overseas for 14 days, instead of allowing them to go back to their own home and then pass on the virus to their family members.
Okay, so in terms of changes, we spoke about technology like Zoom, which is what we're doing right now. You spoke about using cloud storage, and then you spoke about reduced need for office space. I'm wondering, Hong Kong is the king of the world when it comes to real estate, and perhaps some of the most expensive real estate in the world. So if it is that there's greater use of technology, do you see that potentially having an impact on commercial real estate prices?
Well, commercial property prices have already started to come down. And for retail, because a lot of the retail shops have closed and there are a lot of vacancy, and certainly the rent and the selling price have gone down as well. And in respect of office, we expect to see very big drop in the price of rent per square foot, and especially in Central. Central is, as you said, the king of the real estate. The rental is so expensive. At one stage, it was over 200 Hong Kong dollars. That means how much? 25 US. Over 25 US per square foot per month.
Wow.
That is quite expensive, and we expect that will go down. And in respect of some big companies, they also move out of Central, especially putting their back office support in other areas. And in Hong Kong, there is a place called Quarry Bay, which is quite close to the Tai Kung City in the eastern part of Hong Kong Island. And Tai Kung Swire has converted a lot of the factory buildings into A-grade commercial. And we built the area into back office or even front office hub for big law firms and accounting firms. Big law firm, for example, Baker McKenzie, moved the whole office from Central to Quarry Bay, and in order to reduce their rental expenses. And so we expect that rental expenses and selling price of real estate will go down. There is some survey that it may go down the selling price will go down by 15 to 20% this year, by the end of this year. So we don't know when COVID-19 will end and how will end. And at this moment, the whole world has stopped working, stopped operation, and supply chain has been disrupted, and certainly consumer spending will go down in a lot of other countries as well. So Europe and US are the big markets for Hong Kong and China, and so the trading and transport or the air travel will suffer significantly, at least for the rest of this year, and hopefully it will recover next year. And luckily, we have China as a market, as an alternative. But China, the manufacturing in China is now focused more on medical supplies.
Naturally,
because the whole world needs medical supplies, and that is the key industry to be in at this moment. But for others, for example, for luxury products or for cars, there will be a drop especially on exports.
Understood. And so commercial real estate, definitely. And if it is that people are able to telecommute, then, there may not be a need to find an expensive apartment or condo that's close to where the office is. They can live further out, maybe close to the border with China, maybe just over the border, and commute in every day and save some money in rent that way. Do you see that happening, that there may also be a softening in prices for residential real estate and rental yields?
Certainly the residential real estate has also gone down hand in hand with commercial and retail, and because of two factors. Number one is the social unrest last year, and some consider, I better go back to where I'm from, because during the handover of Hong Kong to China, there was a big migration wave, migrating in particular to Canada and Australia and New Zealand, and those who migrated came back to Hong Kong after the handover, in particular after the SARS in 2002, and then the real estate price, especially the residential area, has gone up non-stop for now up 17 years, 16 or 17 years. So it's time that there should be a correction in the price. And some of those who migrated, got a foreign passport, and came back to Hong Kong and work and bought property and make a big gain from the residential property that they reside in. Some of them, they decided, well, it's time for me to go back to, I love more living in a country with a smaller population, and they are close to their retirement as well. But certainly the current COVID-19 problem in every country is stopping them from travel at this moment. But I will see the wave of migration going up in the next few years. So once we have more people who want to migrate, well, they just go back and live wherever, because I also have some university classmates who decided I better retire now because I've earned enough in the past many years, and now I want to enjoy my life. And they are now living in Canada or US or Australia. And those who want to go back, they want to go back and live for good, and they will sell their property. That means there will be a bigger supply of residential property of different grades, especially the middle class, for the middle class. And so we will see residential property price also going down at this moment because of COVID-19. Very few people go out to inspect property or buy property. And the government has imposed very heavy stamp duty for non-resident, non-permanent resident buyer of property. And everyone has only one in a lifetime to enjoy the much lower stamp duty. Otherwise, the stamp duty is as high as 15 or 20% on property price. That's very high. And besides, once you sell within 3 years, then there is another stamp duty on the disposal price, not on the gain itself. The gain itself is still not taxable as a capital gain. But the stamp duty is a stopper of people who want to buy property, especially at this moment. Certainly there are some bargain hunters who want to venture out to see whether there's any easy and cheap but good quality property which they want to collect at this moment. Because in every downtrend, there will be bargain hunters, for whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, is it fair to say that in a way, the COVID-19 situation didn't create anything. It exacerbated what was already happening, the trend that was already in play. Because we had the trade war, and then we had the protests, and now we have the pandemic on top of it. So it kind of, accelerated the existing trend in terms of the slowdown of the economy, real estate, and so on. And if so, if that is indeed a fair statement, what does that say about the future of Hong Kong? What do you think?
Well, as I said, China is a very big country, second biggest economy, and it has a big reliance on Hong Kong, on a lot of areas. For example, state-owned enterprises. A lot of the state-owned enterprises in China, they have offices in Hong Kong, and they use Hong Kong as a springboard to go outside. So, and state-owned enterprises, they need hand-holding to go to Europe, to US, to Canada, to Australia, and Hong Kong. Hong Kong professionals understand China a lot better than professionals from other countries, because we speak the language and we mingle with them and work with them a lot for a long time, and so mainland colonies, especially those who are close to the central government, they would trust Hong Kong professionals more than professionals coming from other countries, because we belong to the same country. And it's closer, it's easier, and Hong Kong is still a window for China, especially on the foreign exchange control, because they can come out of Hong Kong easily and go out to outside world. But for those, China does not want to jeopardize their economy or finance. They can stop them in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong is still a place where there will be a lot of battle between China and the foreign countries on every area. So so we see that Hong Kong will not lose its significance until 2047. The 50 years unchanged way of life comes to an end. And Chinese government during the last year social unrest make public announcement that after 2047, the current state of life, the current state of law will remain unchanged. But we don't know. Certainly there will be fine adjustment from time to time. But I don't think that will be a very big change, because because 2047 is not that far away, only 27 years from now. And based on our experience with the Sino-UK negotiation on the handover, it took place, started from 1983. So around 14, 15 years before the real handover. So we will see some fine changes in the next 10 to 15 years. And so then we will be able to see more of the changes. But certainly there will be changes. In fact, the current state of life is different from before 1997, because we do business more with China and act as a conduit between China and the outside world. So we will see Chinese companies going direct to other countries as well as going through Hong Kong as a conduit, because China has a lot of experience. For example, the high-speed train, the property development, or production of cars, or buying luxury brands, and they have a lot of spare capacity at this moment. especially on the building of train wagons, train engines. And it also has experience in the firing of rockets and satellites into the sky. So this kind of experience, their capacity, as well as they have a big war chest, will help them to explore opportunity in outside world, especially in Africa and Latin America, where there will be less resistance to China going in.
Okay, so I get that in frontier markets. So so just to kind of recap, Hong Kong definitely will continue to have a role in terms of, I mean, not just a financial market and an avenue for funds flowing out for investment from China, but also as a common law jurisdiction. So it will to some extent be that gateway or that window, as you say, between China and the rest of the world. But I wonder, in light of two things: one, the rise of Shanghai, and two, the trade war and what has happened since, whether that may have an impact on Hong Kong and to some extent China, because now a lot of outsiders or outside firms that want to enter the China market no longer see a need to do so through Hong Kong. They can go directly to Shanghai, some of the other tier one cities as well. And then secondly, because of the disruption to global supply chains, I'm wondering if it would see a movement of manufacturing from China to, say, like Vietnam or Thailand, Cambodia, something like that. What do you think?
Well, answering the second one first. On the supply chain, certainly we will see some realignment because at this moment there is too much reliance on the supply chain and manufacturing capacity of China. And certainly there will be some countries who are quite concerned with China being the center of manufacturing and production. Once China shut down, and then there will be no spare parts for their tools or for their cars or for whatsoever. I will see that. But at this moment, because China has an experience built up in the past 30 to 40 years, it's not that easy to replace at this moment. And besides, Chinese companies, including Hong Kong companies with factories in China, are also moving to cheaper base of manufacturing. Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand are also moving out. So if we take US as an example, that means Chinese enterprises will be following the experience of US companies to expand outside of China into other countries. And that's what I see, because once you have experience, you have capability, you have built up your brand name, then there will be opportunity for you. And for manufacturing is not just cost, it's also the understanding of the regulations and rules and the compliance issue as well. So Chinese enterprises will go through a learning phase going into these countries. And in fact, the presidency of China has promulgated One Belt, One Road since a couple of years ago. And that is also well, I would say it's because China in China is very different from other countries. In China, the central government make order or make a proposal, then the central, the state-owned enterprises and private enterprises will follow, because they have been so used to following the policy of the central government or local governments in order to be able to survive. So I see, we have been seeing a lot of investment into those countries that I mentioned. And in fact, some of these clients are originally from China or funded by Chinese companies. They are our clients as well, because we have Moores Rowland providing support to them in these other countries in ASEAN. And that's the answer to your question. And in respect of Shanghai, and Shanghai is coming up fast, but as well, as a reminder, 20 years ago, the Chinese mainland government said, well, we want to have an international board on a stock exchange in Shanghai. But it doesn't happen in the past 20 years. And in respect of foreign exchange control going into China, still here, and more stringent rules and regulations. And so we will see from the perspective of the security and strategic perspective of the Chinese government. As I said, they will not allow everything to go into China. And even if they allow something to go in, because they still have prohibitive list of industries. For example, if you want to go into education in China, then you must partner with some local and probably some government institutions. And so there are also other areas as well that China is not yet open to other companies, and even for the financial industries, is only recently open for foreign financial institutions to go and have majority control in China in their operations, because in the past it was only financial institutions outside of China are only allowed 20% ownership in a joint venture. So that will happen gradually. And by reason of the different regulations, etc. in China, and by reason of the foreign exchange control, Hong Kong still has a role to play on international trading and on using Hong Kong as a springboard to go into China. So many of the companies that we see, they have Hong Kong headquarters, and they have China headquarters. The China headquarters may be in Shanghai, or maybe in some other places, because Hong Kong play the role of both China as well as Southeast Asia and the outside world. So Hong Kong has been changing, and Hong Kong has to adopt and adapt. So we see that for every move, there are lots of entrepreneurs in China who are expecting the changes or foreseeing the changes and make moves well in advance in order that they will prosper and they will be able to survive. So we because we have seen in the past, not just the 30 years, but in the past 50 or 60 years, we have seen there are a lot more entrepreneurs who are very clever and wise and worldly in their operation. And so many of them, they also have branches in China and outside world.
I see. Okay, that's pretty instructive. So, in short, as Hong Kong evolves, I mean, historically, like pre-1947, it was very much a global city. And perhaps if a company from the West was eyeing Asia, they'll use Hong Kong as a springboard to expand throughout all of Asia. Whereas right now, Hong Kong is very much, is shifted, it's pivoted a bit, and it's more China focused as opposed to all Asia. It's China focused. And if that is the case, aside from Singapore, what other cities within Asia do you see becoming more global?
Well, the first one come to my mind is certainly Singapore.
Mhm,
Singapore will stand to benefit, and I think Singapore has a very good and effective government structure,
mhm,
and there are a lot of very well trained government officials. In Singapore, the government steer the commercial and industrial direction
mhm,
of the country. Apart from Singapore, frankly, I don't see anyone.
mm,
But any other countries are only, any other cities are only local. For example,
mhm,
in Malaysia, or in Indonesia, or in Vietnam, or in Cambodia.
mhm,
So most of them, they are local.
mhm,
And for Korea and Japan,
mm,
they don't serve as an enterprise between their own country or other country and the outside world, because they only serve their own country, and the language barrier
mhm.
is too big
Yes,
for them.
yes.
So we see, for example, Korean products
Mhm,
going outside and selling in other parts of the world, but they don't. Korean business or professional, they don't serve as a springboard
yeah.
for foreign investors to go to other countries. For example, India, or for example, Japan.
Mhm,
And besides Japan and Korea, they don't have a very good relationship at this moment.
mhm,
So India is a very big market,
mm,
but we don't know. We don't know yet where the India will be coming up
mhm,
as the springboard. Well, because if you are in a big country,
mhm.
you don't need to serve other countries.
Right.
You only need to serve your own country. For example, in China, they only serve their own clients, their own industries and commercial enterprises.
Mm,
And there's no need for them. But for small cities like Hong Kong and Singapore,
mhm,
then we have to be flexible and wise in our direction. We have to maneuver cleverly and wisely from time to time,
mhm,
because there is not a very big GDP within the country or within the city
mhm.
that help us to weather all the financial crisis and storm.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for sharing from your insight and your experience. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.